Hello, and welcome to Fantasy and Reality. And today we'll be looking at the very interesting and very human phenomenon of narrative. So, from fairy tales to Harry Potter, from Avatar to James Bond, we seem to love fantasy, and we expect our books and our films, our movies, our images to take us there. But at the same time, we want our poems and our plays and our novels and our movies to reflect life as it really is. So, should our narratives be seeking to uncover reality by seeking to escape from it? Or is it simply the fact that any reconciliation of those ideas is impossible? Are we, on the one hand, unable to create a narrative that tells things as they really are, and on the other hand, making a fantasy that has nothing to do with our current circumstances? If there is a difference or a similarity. Why? Well, we have three people joining us for the debate this afternoon who I think are very well positioned to try and, breathe some sense into this rather confusing subject. First of all is a filmmaker, Sophie Fiennes, I think is film director, producer. She was also the producer of one of my all-time favourite psychiatric must-watches, The Pervert's Guide to the Cinema, which is written and presented by the philosopher and psychoanalyst Slavoj Žižek. Betty Sue Flowers has been a pioneer of the psychological appreciation of mythology, alongside the esteemed Joseph Campbell, with whom she worked for many years in a very productive collaboration. Betty Sue explores in her work the influence of what these myths and stories have in our lives today. And Noël Carroll is a distinguished professor of philosophy at the City University of New York Graduate Center. He's known as one of the most important contemporary figures in the philosophy of art. What we're going to do today really is explore the starting theme, which is this: should our narratives be seeking to uncover reality or seeking to escape from it? Betty Sue, I wonder if I could ask you to start with the opening lines of your pitch.
When my son was about 5, he said, "Mom, is there anything bigger than infinity?" And I said, I don't think so. I don't think so, because infinity is all of reality. There's nothing bigger than all of reality. But the next day I asked a mathematician friend of mine the same question, and he said, oh, sure. In set theory, infinity plus 1. So I think of narrative as the plus 1 of infinity, of reality. It neither uncovers or escapes, it creates reality, the extra plus 1. Now, reality is really weird, very weird. We have such limited equipment to access it. We have our senses, we have math, which is even weirder than reality in some respects, because the mathematicians play their little games, and then 100 years later, we see, wow, their games that they played, totally distinct from reality, actually map on to reality. And we're here in Zoom world because of ones and zeros. So reality being as strange and as estranged from us and our limited equipment to access it, narrative becomes really important. It's the plus 1. It creates reality. We live in story. We can't experience our lives apart from narrative. We're the storytelling animals. We can't live in math. We live in stories. So we even dream in stories. And our life is a story because it ends in death. It has a beginning and a middle and an end, and that's what gives it meaning. So I have a hard time with both uncovering and escaping, because I think we are creating realities through our stories that have never existed before and have always existed before, because that's the nature of reality. You can't escape it. You can't uncover all of it. We're infinity plus 1. We're the plus 1 of infinity, narrative is.
Thank you. No, I'll never hear your pitch.
I think I agree, at least in certain respects, with Betty Sue. I'm a little uneasy with the distinction between realism or fantasy, escapism or discovery. Sometimes fantasy, actually in virtue of its capacity to depart from realism, actually uncovers reality. I think especially of Rod Serling. He's famous for the Twilight Zone. He very often, well, in his career, he wanted to make more or less a series of critical social TV programs, but was blocked because of the advertisers. But he discovered that he could actually restage these things in the Twilight Zone. He also did it with his script for Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes addresses all kinds of questions of social justice, of enslavement, of the education of the enslaved. But it does it in a very interesting way, which is what fantasy genres can do. It puts it into a context where, for example, white viewers don't have to feel that they're under attack. They don't have to feel as though they are actually being accused of something. They can be detached in a way from their ordinary interests and anxieties, and in a way that allows them to kind of think of these issues of justice in a very disinterested and more accurate kind of way. The same thing happens in the Harry Potter series with its race war, so that in a curious way, fantasy can really probe reality. And the other direction, of course, don't forget that what we're calling realism can also supply us with escapes. After all, think of celebrity biographies. We could read them to escape our daily burdens, or think of the film Chariots of Fire, about a celebration of a sporting event from years ago, or any kind of sporting history. Those are as good an escape for reality device as a Marvel comic book. So, as I say, I'm a little unhappy. I don't think we have as strict a dichotomy here as was set up with the question.
Sophie.
Yes, well, I completely agree with Noel. I don't see these things as oppositional. I mean, I don't know about anyone else here, but I find reality very hard to be in anyway. I never feel fully in reality. I think it's impossible to, it's a word, but it doesn't mean the experience of being human. And as a documentary filmmaker, I'm of course in supposedly the real world, yet as soon as I film the real world, it's not real anymore. In fact, it becomes freighted and loaded with all kinds of possible senses that might be to do with what I've kind of culturally absorbed as in terms of how I see what I see. So, I mean, I feel that narrative is something that we can, if we're distinguishing narrative from fantasy, as this question is, that narratives are, to me, kind of quite crude methods for how to bring this complicated experience of reality into some kind of order. I enjoy the films that push me out of the neatness of narratives or plots that are the mainstay of fiction, and I'm ready to kind of fall into these kind of strange experience of reality, which, if I was trying to think about this before, really it's just when we're in time, if we're able to be in the moment of time, that's as real as it can be. And that's really hard for us. I mean, that's what, you have to meditate and push everything out of your head to be actually in the present moment and in the now. And when something of the real, in the sense of something traumatic, happens, the first thing we do is we come out of our bodies. The first thing we say is, I felt I left my body, or time slowed down, when we really encounter something really real, like death or like giving birth. So these experiences, so the nature of reality is already a kind of, it doesn't exist in a simple way. Of course, at the same time, fictions today are, fascinated by the idea of reality, which is like Nomadland is a good example of that, because it's a film that tries to bring fiction and reality together in a seamless way. And you can see how narrative is used to sort of try to make that happen.
Thank you. Well, If I may then pick up, because really what you've said, I think very much takes us into the first part of what we're about to talk about this evening. You've drawn attention to the blurry nature of reality. Noel's drawn attention to the fact that wandering away from reality into imagination can be a very powerful way of making it more real. So can I ask, first of all, perhaps we might touch on a definition of narrative and the definition of reality, if we can dare come up with one. But is it possible, therefore, for a narrative, whatever that means, to describe reality, whatever that means?
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below, or visit iai.tv for more debates and talks from the world's leading thinkers on today's biggest ideas.